So there's this niche little indie TV show about a blue box that bounces around in time and space. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It's the worst thing ever put on television, and I think it's fantastic. Anyway, this show has been running for 60 years now, and over those 60 years, it's had a lot of monsters and villains, and sometimes those monsters or villains come back to get embarrassed by some Burke in a police box yet again. And out of those recurring foes, the three generally agreed upon to be the big three are the Daleks, the Cybermen, and the Master. The eternal triumvirate of the horrifying fascist mutants from a desolate planet who want to destroy everything they touch. The faceless, emotionless drones who were once human and want to force us all to undergo conversion in order to turn every planet grey and lifeless. And I don't know, some twink. But why am I just sat here intensely describing three villains of this science fiction program to you? Yeah, probably, but also, as you might have guessed by the title of this video, I think that out of these three villains, the Cybermen are the most underserved when it comes to their appearances. I think that their core concept often gets a bit muddled and they become a bit too generic sometimes, which is a shame, because when utilised properly, when the horror of their existence is delved into, as much as you can delve into that sort of thing at 7 PM or BBC One, they remind me that they are, in my opinion, the show's best villains. So I'm going to start out my incoherent rant by first looking at the origins of the Cybermen, then tracking their portrayals through the classic and new series, and finally using that knowledge to answer questions like, what makes a good Cybermen story? What makes a bad Cybermen story? And why do none of my friends want to be seen in public with me anymore? The Cybermen were invented by some nerd, thanks for watching. Some nerd called Dr. Kit Pedler, who acted as a sort of unofficial scientific advisor to Doctor Who in its early years, writing stories for the first and second Doctor. One day, Kit chatted to his wife, also a doctor, about what would happen to someone if their entire being was replaced with machinery, and through collaborating with another writer for the show, Jerry Davis, the Cybermen were born, debuting in the first Doctor's final story, The 10th Planet, in 1966. They were clearly a solid concept from the beginning. Creepy monotone voices, a horrifying mix of organic and mechanical, missing their gloves because the production team forgot to give them any, so the actors' hands are just kind of sticking out. Again, this show is awful, and I hope it goes for another 1,000 years. Throughout the remainder of the 60s under the second Doctor, the Cybermen showed up quite frequently, pretty much replacing the Daleks as the main recurring villain for a while. This was also because their creator wrote them out and tried to sell a Dalek show to America, which was met with resounding cries of "We're good, thanks." Then in 1970, the show exploded into colour, and the third Doctor faced off against them 0 times because script editor Terence Dix and producer Barry Letts hated them. Rest in peace, sirs, thank you for all you've contributed to this programme, but when I get down there, it's on site. In fact, the Cybermen only appear once in the entire 1970s in Revenge of the Cybermen, where they are, so you know how in the 10th Planet they look like guys in suits? Well, this is where they become just guys in suits. The unfortunate trend for the rest of the classic series is that the writers, maybe because of the long gaps between their appearances, seem to largely forget what the core concept of the Cybermen is, and they just become a bit generic. Not that they don't still have some good stories, I'm not going to be the one moron who sits here and declares that Earthshock sucks, actually. But you could swap out the Cybermen in any of their colour stories with any humanoid, robot-y villain, and nothing much would change. The creep factor, the looming horror of these slow-moving, lifeless drones coming to take away your humanity, is largely gone post-1969. So by the time that the classic series was cancelled in yet another stellar programming decision by the BBC, the Cybermen had become, firmly cemented already as part of that big three, but also a monster that nobody really knew what to do with anymore. Completely divorced from their original tone and intention and speculative commentary on the nature of being human. Oh, was there anyone out there at all who could bring them back to their roots? Was there hope for our metal boys yet? I wouldn't know, I go outside.
It's false. It's fiction. It's a total fabrication.
The new series of Doctor Who. It was away, but now it's back again to ruin my entire life for the next 18 years. And beyond. A brand new incarnation of the show with more action and more emotion and effects that looked fantastic when I was 7, okay? The new Cybermen made their debut in the 2006 two-parter Rise of the Cybermen and the Age of Steel, also giving them a new origin on an alternate universe Earth instead of Mondas or Telos or wherever the hell the Classic Who writers decided that they were from this week. And, of course, we can't talk about this story without also talking about... Okay, if you said spare parts just now, you're a fucking loser, bro. I know your room smells insane right now. Go outside, for the love of God. So, if you actually have friends and have therefore never heard of Big Finish, they're a company that makes audio dramas and since 1999 have had the rights to make them about Doctor Who. In 2002, they made one about the origins of the Cybermen on the planet Mondas that was a twin planet of Earth until it lost its orbit and drifted into deep space. That is what we call a skill issue, my friends. Spare Parts was written by Mark Platt, who had previously written Ghostlight, famed for being an absolute banger from the classic series that nobody can actually recount the plot of, probably not even Mark, and he received a second TV Doctor Who credit when the first Cybermen story of the revival gave him a little special thanks. Just as the first New Who Dalek story was adapted from a Big Finish work, Russell the Davis once again turns to the expanded universe here for the Cybermen's debut. And while Rise and Spare Parts don't really bear that much resemblance to each other as finished products, there's a very clear shared mission statement at their heart. A desire to move away from what had become of the Cybermen in the dying days of the classic series and go back to their origins, to the horrifying prospect of what makes you being torn away and replaced with a faceless grey army. I mean, what is this, living in the UK? For the first time on TV for about 40 years, the terror of possibly being forced into becoming one of these things is properly explored, and the story feels uniquely tailored to the Cybermen. Not only is Rise harking back to their origins, it's pushing them forward by linking the Cybermen to capitalism and technology. The desire of faceless corporations run by egotistical lunatics like Cybers Industries to constantly push for new technology and new upgrades, regardless of how many people have to be exploited to make that happen. I've heard more than a few fans say that this one is just kind of okay, but this is everything I want out of a Cyberman story personally. Their appearance here is also to set up their return in the finale two-parter Army of Ghosts and Doomsday, where they still manage to fit in a few things about the horrors of conversion and the rampant exploitation of untested technology leading to tragic events, despite the fact that this finale is essentially Russell smashing his action figures together for an hour and a half. This is not a criticism. I've been chasing the high of the Daleks coming out of that void ship since I was 10. The two big villains of the show beef for a bit and then get slorped silly style back into the void. The Daleks show up next season, of course, but what of the Cybermen? What chilling new plot will they concoct in order to convert the world? How will the Doctor stop them from carrying out this plan? Will we explore yet more horrors of the It's a 4 out of 10 Christmas special 2 years later. Okay. So their next appearance in the next Doctor is fine, I guess? I always tend to judge the Christmas specials by lower standard than I do the other episodes. It's quite clear in the RTD era that maybe barring Christmas Invasion and End of Time, they were always something of an afterthought. They feel like they're meant to be shown at 7 PM on Christmas Day when everyone's in a food coma and your parents have confiscated that race car they got you because you drove it into your grand's foot even though she walked in front of it without looking, so how could I be expected to— The Cybermen march around Victorian London for a bit, they kidnap some kids, build a big 360p resolution Cyberman, they get sucked into the time vortex. I honestly feel that the RTD era kind of ran out of ideas for the Cybermen after their first appearances. Like, the Cybermen plans in Series 2 are explicitly to convert people into them, and we see the evil and disgusting nature of that plan play out in full. Then, in the next Doctor, the plan is to kidnap a bunch of people and make them work to make a bigger Cyberman that can blow people up, and also to plug a human into it without even fully converting them. Converting is only mentioned as an afterthought after the big stompy dude is already at work. This is like the abridged classic series version of what happened to our Silver friends. Starting out as a unique villain with stories specifically tailored to them that could explore how dark their concept was, before degrading into plots that could honestly be swapped out for quite a few other villains. Would this really have been that different with the Big Dalek? They're also not really the focus here. The plot is mostly focused on the gimmick of the title. The governor from The Walking Dead believing that he is the Doctor, but is actually a man who inhaled too hard on his cyber database stick. And it is such a shame that this is the last Cybermen story of the Tennant era, not such an incredible swan song, but look. Here comes Matt Smith and Stephen Moffat with brand new Cybermen stories. A whole new era. Now, admittedly, I haven't seen these stories in a while, but I'm sure that they're— So technically the Cybermen's first appearance in the Matt Smith era is as part of the big gang of baddies who lock the Doctor in the crazy crime cube for all eternity. Amy Pond gets chased by a headless one and then the head tries to tentacle slurp her. Admittedly, pretty cool imagery, okay? 2 minutes worth of good Cybermen content in this one, gold star. And then James Corden is in their first proper episode, so gold star immediately revoked and replaced with the hydrogen bomb. Man, I really do not know whose idea it was to have, instead of the penultimate episode of Series 6 being the first part of a finale, having it instead be a sequel to that filler James Corden episode from a year ago that everyone thought was fine. Anyway, Closing Time has pretty much the exact same problem that the next Doctor does. It's too distracted by another plot element to give the Cybermen any breathing room. You've got James Corden worrying about looking after his baby alone for the first time, and you've got the whole "the Doctor is definitely 100% going to die this time, you guys, just trust me, he's actually going to do it" series arc jostling for room as well. So as performatively mad as I just got about that one, it's ultimately just filler. Utterly boring, pointless filler. And the Cybermen are too good of a villain to keep being used for that kind of boring, pointless filler. Okay, that wasn't as performative, and I should probably go get a juice box or something. Give me a second. Let's see what this show makes me does. makes me does. Oh, I'm gonna kill myself. This one was also written by Gareth Roberts, King of the Turf, so just rancid vibes all around. And like most of his episodes, to be honest, it feels like it barely got a first draft in, let alone a second. Corden completely reverses cyber conversion because he hears his baby crying. He doesn't stop it halfway through or anything, it actually finishes converting him and then the machine just goes, oh wait, he heard his baby crying, let me just put his skin back on real quick. But Yvonne from series 2 kept her emotions. Yeah, she kept her very single-minded devotion to nationalism and still had the full body workup. She didn't bust out of the suit fully unscathed just because she heard Prince Andrew Honestly, if this one were a filler episode with a different villain and it wasn't replacing the first half of a series finale, I'd probably be kinder to it. As it stands, I hope it fails to stand and falls over next to a flight of stairs. Gareth Roberts remains a bad writer. What the hell is Neil Gaiman's excuse? Well, okay, I don't like repeating rumours or hearsay, I much prefer to repeat them both at once. Series 7 in its finished form is made up entirely of one-parters for some reason. But the rumour goes that Neil Gaiman was hired to write the other Matt Smith Cybermen story, Nightmare in Silver, for this one when it was still going to be a mixture of one and two-parters. Then he got told to change it to one episode quite late in development, and if you've seen this episode you realise just how plausible that is. Like, there's a cool setting, some interesting side characters, there's a genuine menace to the Cybermen in a lot of their scenes where they really drive home how unstoppable this faceless, uncaring force is, but it's all kneecapped by the fact that this episode is clearly trying to cram an hour and a half's worth of plot into 45 minutes. And then there's, whatever the hell Mr. Clever was meant to be. I know that everyone always talks about how good Matt Smith is in the dual role here, and yeah, fair enough, he plays a very camp, very big emotion quite well. But why the hell is there a very camp, very emotional villain leading the guys with no emotions? I have many emotions about this. Yeah, okay, I know I was just praising the Cybermen debut where they were led by John Lumick, who's basically cackling to himself in a volcano lair half the time. But it's very different when the Cybermen are being led by or collaborating with a non-Cyberman, as opposed to an actual Cyberman algorithm planet type thing having a quirky personality. Wouldn't it have been more chilling if every time Mr. Clever took over the Doctor's mind for a bit, Matt Smith just went completely dead-eyed and monotone? Wouldn't that drive home more the horrifying reality of what will happen if he loses the chess game, as opposed to him just becoming even more of a Tumblr sexy man? So the Doctor zaps Mr. Clever, the planet blows up, and just like that, the Cybermen exit Matt Smith's era. Oh, my apologies, there's handles from Time of the Doctor, a disembodied head that the Doctor speaks to for a few thousand years and has a surprisingly emotional death, and... Okay, I actually think that the disembodied Cybermen head from Matt Smith's last episode might be the best use of the Cybermen in that entire era. What a world. What a runtime this incredibly niche and stupid video must have by now, Jesus Christ. Now, funnily enough, the next Doctor, Peter Capaldi, has actually said that the Cybermen are his favourite villains, so would he, in his era, get the calibre of story that would truly live up to the— Yeah, he did. He's Peter fucking Capaldi. In 2014, 8 years after Rise and Steel, it's like the show suddenly remembers how to use the Cybermen again. First, we have the Series 8 finale where the Master is trapping recently dead people in a sort of Time Lord datasphere and then starts re-downloading them back into their corpses to pop out of their graves as Cybermen, which is probably the best and most messed up Cybermen plot of the new series. It's exploring the sort of terrifying questions about fear of death and loss and your loved ones potentially returning to life but changed into something horrific. It's gothic and not a phase, mum. The story is only let down because the Master, now Missy's, whole plan turns out to be hand over the Cybermen army to the Doctor so he can use it to wage war for good, because the show had no idea how to end that Am I a Good Man arc they had been doing over Series 8. But until then, it's a banger for me. It's everything I would want out of that kind of Cybermen invading Earth story. But Owen, I hear the voices ask, what would you want out of a Cybermen story that wasn't about them invading Earth? Well, the answer to that one, my friends, lies in only the greatest series finale Doctor Who has ever put out, which statistically about 9 of you have seen.
$7? Are you fucking serious?
Once again, one of the best Cybermen stories on TV comes from ripping off spare parts. A colony ship escaping from Mondas, the Cybermen's L homeworld, decides that they need a new way to prolong the lifespans of their crew and starts converting them. The dingy hospital setting, the cold, emotionless medical staff, all coming right as the 12th Doctor meditates on his own mortality and what he is willing to permanently die for. It's the perfect Capaldi swan song, followed by another swan song that was like a 7 out of 10, and it stands pretty confidently as the best Cyberman story of the new series, maybe ever. World Enough and Time and the Doctor Falls know exactly what it wants to say with them. It knows exactly what's scary about them, and it's all in a story that couldn't see the Cybermen swapped out for anyone else. The banger to end all bangers. And also to end Doctor Who, it got cancelled right after this. Okay, fine, watch me. I'll put an end to all the Chris Chibnall vitriol right now. The 13th Doctor's first Cybermen episode is actually quite good. It is a fair bit better before the Cyberman shows up, I can't lie, but still a decent episode nonetheless, with some genuinely spooky stuff in it and a plot that manages not to feel overstuffed despite a lot of moving parts. Okay, compliments over, I'm going to complain about Ashad now. He's just got the exact same problem as Mr. Clever. What if a Cyberman was emotional but also still evil is such a boring concept to me. Partially or fully converted person struggling with what they've become and grappling with that existential horror? Great. An angry bad guy who wouldn't be discernible as a Cyberman at all if he didn't have half of a suit hanging off of him? Dull. Uninteresting. Dalek if the budget hadn't stretched to wheels. And once the weight of the plot is shifted more towards him in Ascension of the Cybermen, I know, enough people have ragged on the Series 12 finale and I can't really add anything new here. The premise of there being only a tiny group of humans left in the entire universe fighting off the Metal Menace, pretty good. That's about it. Beyond that, the Cybermen are back to the same old treatment, especially once the Master shows up. Sidelined in their own story by the series arc and other aspects of the plot, and that story being nothing particularly intrinsic to their nature or core ideas, barring maybe the Master converting dead Time Lords into Cybermen. Well done, it gets like a half point for vaguely gesturing towards a cool Cybermen idea. But otherwise, like I always say kids, if it could be a Dalek story, it's not a good Cyberman story. After that, the Cybermen show up as part of the Master's little group in 13's final episode, The Power of the Doctor, led once again by everyone's favourite half-dressed boy. They stomp around for a bit, Ashad gets a cool one-take hallway scene. They cameoed in Flux a few times too, in case you want to get really pedantic about it. But apart from that, that's it so far. That's every Cyberman story in the new series, and we have, I would say, 3 out of 10 stories that are actually interested in exploring one of the show's most interesting and unique villains, and that succeed at it. And yes, in the context of their creation, they are a unique villain. The next person to say Borg is getting killed. So how do we fix that abysmal 30% hit rate? You adapt spare parts again, you fucking coward. But seriously, I think the solution is similar to any other villain in this show. Use them sparingly. Stop wheeling them out as a rating stunt or just because it's something you think you should do. The one difference I've always seen with the Cybermen as opposed to the Daleks or the Master, who have also both suffered from showing up in episodes that they're not really needed in, is that the premises of those latter two are a little less specific. They both want to conquer the universe, maybe in slightly different ways, but their goals are broadly a vague kind of domination. The Cybermen, meanwhile, are much more specific. They don't just want to massacre people on sight or rule over them. They want to change them, to keep them alive forever as sick, twisted versions of themselves. In a lot of their depictions, they're not an invading external force, they come from within. They're a product of our fear of mortality, they're a mirror reflecting what unchecked technological advancement and a lack of ethics could do to us. The Daleks and the Master are alien threats. The Cybermen are us. And so their stories, if we want them to be good, need to be about us as well. That's how we fix the Cybermen. This video was made possible by all of my wonderful patrons. Thank you so much for your support. And an extra special thanks to GJB13, NBeyondWe, Fifi M, Flames of James, and Samuel Newbury for subscribing at my highest tier. If you want to become a patron yourself so that I can make more videos like this, the link is in the description below. Otherwise, thanks for watching and see you next time.